My name is Valerie Carter. I was 32, married, and by every outsider's standard, living the perfect life in a quiet suburb of Colorado Springs. My husband, Brandon, was a well-respected real estate broker, driven and meticulous. We had a beautiful home, a golden retriever named Leo, and a long list of mutual friends who envied our life. But perfection is often a mask, and beneath mine, I felt hollow. Brandon wasn't unkind. He was loyal, dependable, and always made sure the bills were paid. But somewhere between climbing the career ladder and buying a second property in Aspen, he stopped looking at me like he used to. Like I was a woman worth desiring. Our intimacy had dwindled to routine. He'd kiss me goodnight with the same affection he showed Leo, gentle, familiar, but lacking passion. I wasn't sure when I stopped craving him or when he stopped noticing my efforts. New lingerie, dinners made from scratch, spontaneous road trips, but it was all fading. In January, as part of my resolution to reclaim my energy, I joined a local gym. That's where I met Jace. Jace Montgomery was my assigned personal trainer. He was 28, a former college athlete, and had the kind of build that made heads turn when he walked into a room. His eyes were an intense shade of green, his hair always slightly tousled like he'd just come back from a run, and his voice, deep calm, was enough to make any woman pause. He was polite at first, completely professional. He asked about my goals, injuries, and habits. I told him I wanted to feel strong again, to reclaim my body and confidence. He nodded, taking notes without judgment, but something lingered in his gaze when our eyes met. By week 3, our sessions became more than just exercise. We'd talk during cool-down stretches. He'd ask about my weekend plans, my favorite music, even the books I read. I noticed the way his fingers lingered a second longer than necessary when adjusting my posture. And I noticed how it made me feel, seen, interesting, beautiful. One Wednesday evening, after an especially grueling circuit, I collapsed on the mat, breathless and flushed. He dropped down beside me with a laugh. "You killed it today." I smiled, sweat clinging to my forehead. "Thanks to you." There was a pause, too long for comfort. He looked at me in a way Brandon hadn't in years. His eyes weren't just on my form, they were on me. Really on me. "You ever get the feeling," Jace said quietly, "that you're being overlooked? Like someone should see how incredible you are, but they don't?" His words caught me off guard. I swallowed. "Yeah, sometimes." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside Brandon in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing Jace's voice in my mind. He'd said it so effortlessly, like he already knew how I felt. I looked at my husband, his back turned to me, phone glowing in his hands, and I wondered how long I'd been invisible to him. Over the next few weeks, I found myself lingering after sessions with Jace. Our conversations grew deeper. He talked about his childhood, his fears, how he moved to Colorado for a fresh start. I told him about my college dreams, the ones I'd set aside to build a stable life with Brandon. He listened, really listened, eyes locked on mine like my words mattered. One night, as I packed my gym bag, Jace stopped me near the exit. "You ever feel trapped, Valerie?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He stepped closer, just enough that I could feel the warmth of his body, his voice low. "I think about you more than I should." My breath caught. "I'm married," I whispered. "I know," he said, his eyes scanning mine. "But that doesn't change how I feel." I walked out that night without looking back, my heart hammering. The guilt was immediate and thick. I avoided the gym for 3 days. Brandon barely noticed. He was wrapped in a new development deal, late nights and conference calls. When I finally returned, I told myself I was strong enough to set boundaries, that I could go back to seeing Jace strictly as a trainer. But I was wrong. Our next session was heavy with silence and glances we tried not to share. During our stretch routine, I felt his hand graze my lower back, slow and deliberate. I shivered. I didn't stop him. "I missed you," he said, barely above a whisper. I should have walked away, but instead, I leaned into his touch. That weekend, Brandon went to Aspen to oversee a client's cabin remodel. He asked if I wanted to come but didn't press when I declined. I told him I had errands. He kissed my cheek and left early Saturday morning. That afternoon, Jace texted me. "Still thinking about you. Just wanted you to know." My fingers trembled as I replied. Come over. I waited on the living room couch, heart racing. When I heard his car pull up, I almost called it off. But something in me, a hunger I hadn't fed in years, held me still. Jace entered, quiet and cautious. We didn't speak much. There wasn't a need. His kiss was urgent, desperate, his hands sliding over my skin like he was memorizing me. We stumbled to the couch, then to the bedroom, a trail of clothes and years of repressed desire behind us. It wasn't just physical. It felt like a spark reignited, like I had been drowning and he was oxygen. Afterwards, as I lay tangled in sheets beside him, guilt twisted in my chest. But it was tangled with something else, relief. For once, I didn't feel invisible. I don't want to be a secret, Jace said softly. I didn't answer. Because I didn't know what I wanted either. In the days that followed, I kept replaying the afternoon over and over. I looked at Brandon differently, wondering if he could see the change in me. But he didn't. He went about his routine, asking about dinner, bills, our weekend plans, never once looking me in the eye long enough to see my conflict. Jace, on the other hand, became insistent. He wanted more time, more of me. He texted late at night, called when he knew Brandon wouldn't be home. I tried to keep distance, but every time I heard his voice, I melted. Eventually, Brandon found out. One evening, I returned from the gym to find him in the living room, my phone in his hand. He had read the messages, my confession laid bare in digital ink. His face was pale, not with anger but disbelief. How long? He asked. 3 weeks, I said softly. He stood, hands trembling. Was it just physical? No, I said. Because I owed him at least that honesty. He didn't yell, didn't throw things, just looked at me like I'd gutted him. And in a way, I had. Brandon moved out the next morning. Said he needed space. I didn't stop him. Jace was there for me in the aftermath. Supportive, warm, gentle. He told me we'd made the right choice, that our connection meant something real. And for a while, I believed him. But reality is sobering. 3 months later, Jace took a job offer in California. Said he needed to grow, that long distance could work. I knew what that meant. We tried for a month, calls, texts, video chats, but the fire dimmed. He was starting over, and I was picking up the pieces. Now a year later, I live alone in a smaller apartment. Brandon and I finalized our divorce quietly. Jace is a memory, one I don't regret but also don't romanticize anymore. Sometimes, I still go to the gym. Not the same one. But every time I see a trainer guide someone through a squat or a press, I remember. Not the betrayal, but the moment I realized I was still a woman worth seeing. And that's something no one, not even the best marriage, should ever let you forget.